Once upon a time, in a small cottage at the edge of a quiet village, there lived a boy named Jack and his mother. They were very poor and struggled to make ends meet. Their only possession of value was a cow named Milky White, who gave them milk to drink and sell. But one day, Milky White stopped giving milk, and Jack's mother sighed deeply. "Jack, my dear," she said sadly, "we must sell Milky White to buy food. Take her to the market and see how much you can get." Jack nodded, though his heart was heavy. He loved Milky White, but he knew his mother was right. Early the next morning, Jack set off to the market, leading Milky White down the dusty path. As Jack made his way to the market, he met a curious old man with a long beard and twinkling eyes. The man stopped and looked at Milky White. "That's a fine cow you have there," he said. "Thank you," Jack replied. "I'm taking her to market to sell." The old man stroked his beard thoughtfully. "I'll make you an offer, boy," he said, reaching into his pocket. He pulled out 5 beans that shimmered like gold. "These are not ordinary beans, they are magic beans. Plant them, and you'll see wonders beyond your imagination. I'll trade these beans for your cow." Jack hesitated. "Magic beans? But my mother needs money for food." The man smiled. "Trust me, lad. These beans will change your life." After a moment of thought, Jack agreed, trading Milky White for the beans. He couldn't help but feel excited as he walked home, the beans jingling in his pocket. When Jack got home and showed his mother the beans, she was furious. "Magic beans?" she exclaimed. "You traded our cow for beans? How foolish!" She grabbed the beans and tossed them out the window. Poor Jack went to bed without supper, feeling ashamed and disappointed. But something extraordinary happened that night. As Jack slept, the beans began to grow. They stretched higher and higher, twining around each other to form a giant beanstalk that disappeared into the clouds. When Jack woke up the next morning and looked out the window, he gasped. "Mother, look! The beanstalk, it's enormous!" Curiosity bubbled inside Jack. "I must see where it leads," he declared. Ignoring his mother's protests, Jack began to climb. Jack climbed for hours, higher than he had ever imagined possible. Finally, he reached the top and found himself in a magical land above the clouds. The air was fresh and the land was filled with vibrant flowers and shimmering rivers. But what caught Jack's eye was a massive castle in the distance. "This must belong to a giant," Jack whispered to himself, his heart racing with a mix of fear and excitement. Jack tiptoed to the castle and knocked on the enormous door. A kind-looking giantess opened it and peered down at him. "Who are you, little one?" she asked. "I'm Jack," he replied nervously. "I climbed the beanstalk and ended up here. I'm very hungry. Could you spare some food?" The giantess smiled. "Come in, little Jack, but you must hurry. My husband, the giant, does not like visitors." Jack entered the castle, marveling at its size. The chairs were as tall as houses, and the table stretched like a field. The giantess gave Jack bread and cheese, which he ate gratefully. But just as Jack finished eating, the castle shook with heavy footsteps. "Fee-fi-fa-fum! I smell the blood of an Englishman. Be he alive or be he dead, and I'll grind his bones to make my bread." The giantess gasped. "Hide, Jack," she whispered, pushing him into a cupboard. The giant entered the room, sniffing the air suspiciously. "I smell something," he growled. "It's nothing, dear," the giantess said. "Just the smell of the bread I've baked." Grumbling, the giant sat down at the table. He pulled out a golden goose and placed it on the table. To Jack's amazement, the goose laid golden eggs. Then the giant took out a magical harp that began to play beautiful music all by itself. Jack stared, his eyes wide. Those treasures could save my mother and me, he thought. The giant eventually fell asleep, his snores echoing through the castle. Quietly, Jack crept out of the cupboard and grabbed the golden goose. Clutching it tightly, he ran as fast as he could. The giant woke up with a roar. "Thief!" he bellowed, chasing Jack. Jack ran to the beanstalk and began to climb down as quickly as he could. The giant followed, shaking the beanstalk with every step. "Mother, mother, get the axe!" Jack shouted as he reached the ground. His mother, seeing the danger, ran to fetch the axe. Together they chopped at the base of the beanstalk. With a final mighty swing, the beanstalk toppled and the giant fell, disappearing into the clouds. Jack and his mother were safe. With the golden goose, they became wealthy, and with the magical harp, their days were filled with beautiful music. Jack had learned the value of bravery and resourcefulness, and he never forgot the lessons from his incredible adventure. From that day on, Jack and his mother lived happily ever after, sharing their riches with the villagers and telling the story of the beanstalk that reached the sky. The story of Jack and the beanstalk teaches us the importance of courage, cleverness, and seizing opportunities. But it also reminds us to act wisely and think about the consequences of our choices. Fearsome, the adventure is done. If you enjoyed this story, subscribe to our channel for more interesting stories like this.